I'm Lynette Zang, Chief Market Analyst here at ITM Trading, a full-service physical gold and silver dealer. And on today's edition of Coffee with Lynette, I have my good friend, Greg Mannarino. Known as the Robin Hood of Wall Street, an active full-time trader with a worldwide following. His website, Trader's Choice Net, has over 186,000 followers for a very good reason. And this is because he really cares about community. Well, a lot has happened since the last time we spoke, but I am so happy to have you on. Welcome back.
It is great to be here. Thank you. It's been way too long, and we should do
Yes.
this more often, honestly. You're busy. I'm busy. My schedule is insane. I'm sure yours is too, but we're not going to let this much time go for the next one.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. And I'm going to start out the questions with a real big one, which is, what keeps you up at night?
I'm kind of a relaxed guy in my old age. I really am. If we're talking about like the current environment with regard to
Yes.
the market, I'll tell you the truth, and this is something I've been urging people to do for quite a long time, is I am very much hedged. I don't worry too much about where the market's going to go at all anymore. As a matter of fact, I kind of switched around my whole trading kind of mentality a while back. I am no longer a net buyer of options. I am a net seller. I'm using things like credit spreads. I'm selling options naked onto the
Wow.
market. I don't recommend this for everyone, but I'm an experienced guy and I have enough of a bankroll to pull it off. But
Before you go on, could you explain to the viewers that might not understand what a naked spread is?
Sure. I'm basically selling assets onto the market, which I don't even own. How can you pull that off? Well, it's a sick market, and you can sell things that you don't even own in this market. And I do this all the time. Again, I talk about this stuff. It's kind of an advanced way to trade. And in my view, I'm doing this in a very safe way. But anyway, going back to what we talked about. So look, I'm hedged across the board with regard to, I really, and I've said this before, I personally don't care where the market goes. If the market's going to go up, I'm going to make money. If the market goes down, I'm going to make money. I'm in risk on assets. I'm in risk off asset at the same time. So if the market flips on me overnight or within a week or whatever it might be, I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to do, and I know this is your mission too, is to keep people on the right side of this whole thing.
Right.
I mean, that's really the case. What are we doing? I mean, in the larger, grander scheme of things, it's hard to argue that we are not in a debt hyper bubble, and we need to be prepared for when that bubble bursts. It's going to burst. They keep fueling it and fueling it. It's getting larger and larger and larger. It seems at this point it's unstoppable, but it's not. It's at one point this is going to burst. Yeah. And then risk on is going to turn risk off. And assets like physical gold and silver, in my view, are going to skyrocket. I've stuck to this plan for years. I've explained to people how I think it's going to play out. I think a massive sell-off in the debt market is inevitable, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the stock market. Cash is just going to move from one set of assets to another set of assets, and it's the same thing. People don't seem to realize that these cycles in the market, that's how it works. We've never seen anything like this before. This
right.
Is so
this is just. So what do you think about the recent spike in interest rates on the long bond, on the 10-year bond, 30-year? What is your feeling on that?
I think the market is trying to price in what the Fed's going to do next here. I think that's how the market works generally. And I've been telling people this. I mean, it's kind of funny. I did a video 2 weeks ago where I said, watch for this to happen. And a lot of people are like, oh no, rates it's going to drop. And it's funny, this was a markets that look ahead segment I do one every Sunday 2 weeks ago. I said, don't be surprised to see this. And it's exactly what, now we have a breakout, in my view, above the current range for the 10-year yield, which is the one most people focus on. But look,
So does that mean that you think it's going to keep going higher?
Well, do I think it's going to continue going on? I think the market's trying to find some kind of a neutral ground here, trying to gauge what's going on. Look, it's really difficult to wade through this, if you want to even call it a market.
Right.
It's just some kind of a twisted entity, and we just got to, again, try to keep ourselves in the right spots. And I don't think it's that hard to figure out. Really, we know what's going on. We know what central banks around the world are doing.
Right.
We understand the current environment with regard to inflation, the economy. So again, to me, it's just so easy to realize the spots we need to be in. And I try to hit this from every angle possible. I really do. And that's maybe what keeps me up at night, going back to what you were talking about. I try to think about, what am I missing? What else can I do for myself and for everyone else? Because everything I do, I share with everyone else. Okay, this is what I'm
Right.
doing, and I don't tell people what they should do if I'm not doing it myself. I don't feel like that's right. And I
Exactly.
don't,
That's
yeah. So,
integrity, or the lack thereof. So
yeah.
yes, you have a lot of integrity, and I respect that a lot.
Well, I want people to just stay cool. I don't want people to panic. I want people to look at the current environment, take a deep breath. And it's very easy to get shook up over what's occurring right now. And it used to shake me up pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. But I've reached a point of, I don't know, like an equilibrium in
Yeah.
some ways here. For myself, and I've been working on this for years and years. This is nothing that happened overnight, trying to balance myself
Yeah.
or getting my portfolio in a place where I really don't care too much where this market is going to go here. I want people to stay on the right side of it, just as you do, understanding how important it is to be in a hard asset here. A lot of people getting frustrated right now, and
Right.
probably just like you, I'm getting emails every day. I don't know, hundreds. Oh, what's happening to gold and silver? Oh, it blah 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 blah. The inflation is going up, but these things aren't moving. But we know who's rigging the market. I mean, this is no secret. You know it as well as I. This is the largest bank in the world by assets. It's J.P. Morgan. They've been rigging the metals markets via the derivative for years.
Right.
They're not the only one, but I think they're the major one that is involved in doing this. So good. What I always say is, let them play their game. Let them play this game while they can. Okay, and they're going to pay fines. They're going to keep getting caught rigging not just the metals market. They just paid a fine or rigging Treasury futures. It was a nonsensical fine, like $15 million futures and options. It's a joke.
It is a
And
joke.
they're going to, that means they made 1,000 times that, obviously rigging the market.
Right.
But again, let them play their game, because what we're doing, what I'm trying to convey to people is, bet against this debt, become your own central bank, hold hard assets, realize why you're doing this. You're doing it because we're in a debt hyper bubble, and risk on is going to turn risk off. So you're going to see cash come out of certain asset classes and move into risk on. And that is the stock market. This has been going on and on and on. It seems unstoppable. And for the most part, I've been telling people, buy the dips, continue to buy the dips in this market. This philosophy has been working really well for a long time. There's going to be a moment when it doesn't work. But again, I actually put together recently, in fact, I just published this, a little equation that we can follow what's happening in the debt market to better gauge risk in the market. I call it the Mannarino Market Risk Index. It's a very simple equation. You take the Dixie, you multiply the Dixie by the current 10-year yield, you divide that by 1.61, which is derived from another equation, and you come up with a number. That number today is around 90, 89. It was 89 this morning. And I break it down into 4 phases. 0 to 100 is relatively low risk. 100 to 200 is moderate risk. And then above 200 is kind of a danger zone here. Above 300 is extreme risk. And I back tested this. It does work. So I used to focus a lot on what the 10-year yield is doing in the dollar independently. I tried to find an equation that would encompass both of these units of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And it does seem to work. But that's kind of where I stand here. I want people to be prepared for what is happening, what is coming down the pike. You pay attention to what's going on, and stay focused, but don't panic. Just
Well, I
understand
think you
what you're
need to
doing.
have a plan and you need to execute that plan so that you don't have to panic.
No, you got to stay calm and because this is what happened. Let me just give an example of this. Just a couple of weeks ago, the stock market fell like 600 points. Today, the Dow is down about 500.
Right.
So I had people writing to me that day, "Oh, Greg, I sold all my stocks," and I'm like, okay. Within 3 days, the stock market rebounded and then some. And now we got this sell-off today, sparked by what? Janet Yellen coming out warning about a calamity, catastrophe, and another financial crisis if we don't raise the debt ceiling. Okay, so the market's getting spooked. You got 10-year yield rising. You got some strength here in the dollar. So look, I don't see any major danger here in the market right now. I still don't at all, especially gauging from my risk indicator that I've come up with here. And look, the market is just because it's basically low risk doesn't mean we're not going to get a day or two or three with this market takes a wallop. I mean, that's just the way markets work. But I still think it's a risk on environment. It will remain risk on as long as the Fed keeps buying assets. And
Right.
I don't think they're going to taper anytime soon. Even if they do, it's a token. It's not going to change anything. They're still going to be buying a massive historic amount of assets, keeping rates suppressed. And what is that going to do? That's going to foster an environment of risk as well.
Right. But I want to ask you, okay, because also in that same piece that you're referring to with Yellen in front of the Senate Banking Committee this morning,
Yeah.
what
I couldn't even
joke.
watch it. I was getting nauseated. I can't stand these people. I can't look at their faces. I can't stand their voices. Powell, oh, everything is doing good. Our economy is doing well.
Except that he is now starting to admit that inflation is more persistent than they expected.
I think that requires a duh. I've been doing this duh thing for a while because it gets me so frustrated. Yeah, we all knew that. You, me, everyone who's got a
Right.
functioning brain.
Transitory.
Transitory, oh yeah, just like things are
But
contained
but
too, right?
but here's the question, Greg. Here's the question, and just kind of staying on that because I think that you're seeing a spike in the interest rates because of the acknowledgement from the markets that inflation might not be so transitory, but yet the Fed is still using all of the justifications that they can come up with to keep interest rates low. And what I'm seeing out in the global environment of central banks is that you have, like in South America, you have central banks that are raising the rates to, and I want you to talk to this. Let me just kind of get this whole thought out, though.
Yep.
You have in South America, you have central banks that are raising the rates to combat the high inflation that they're experiencing. You have now Turkey that is lowering the interest rates into a rising inflationary environment. And then you have like England and Europe. I mean, you have this central bank in the US that is maintaining the rates and I love this piece, run the risk of getting behind the curve. So when you're talking about that huge debt bubble, you could kind of look at all of these like little pins that are pricking that bubble. But what do you think about all these varying policies that the central banks, where they used to be so coordinated, they're not as coordinated anymore? And what's your opinion on all of that?
Well, I think, look, the effects of inflation are affecting different economies in a different way. But the bottom line is these central banks have an end game. And their end game is to own it all, is to be the lenders and buyers of last resort. We just heard from Fed President Evans, I think it was just yesterday, talking about how inflation might not be high enough. We heard from the European Central Bank twice in the last week, and they're talking about possibly taking action to, accommodate further. Accommodate. I love that word.
Right.
Drives me nuts. But I really follow what the ECB is doing a lot because if the Fed and the ECB are kind of like in lockstep in a lot of ways, and I think they're going to move goalposts here. And like I said, I think the market is trying to price in a rate hike because of the inflationary environment we are in right now. Fed Chair Powell himself said he wasn't concerned about inflation because it was not widespread. In other words, it's contained, like I just alluded to. Where do we hear that word before?
Yeah.
It's not contained. It's structural, and it's a big problem for people. As a matter of fact, consumer sentiment came in today plummeting because people are saying, "Hold on, what's going on?" We're not blind, we're not stupid, but they're trying to brainwash people. I think that's coming next. They're going to start hitting people here in the United States with this. They're going to start saying, "Oh, inflation is cooling, inflation is moderating." They're going to use that word there. And it's not going to be true at all. It's just propaganda being spread by the mainstream media. And unfortunately, I do follow these things so I can laugh.
Right. No, but I mean, you have to follow them. I have to read them and follow them too,
Yeah,
just so you can
yeah,
let people know what's really behind it too.
I know. And it's a shame because I wish you and I had more people that followed our work. We have a good audience, but I mean, the amount of people obviously that follow these mainstream outlets, they're being brainwashed, they're being programmed via the program. And it's insane. They have no idea what's coming. They never do,
Right.
because they're always being lied to, being kept in the dark. They're not being told the truth about anything right now, and nothing is what it
That's
seems to
true.
be. So I call them the propaganda ministry, and I really wish that shows like ours had more people that would follow us, because I think they'd get a lot better information. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, because I still believe there's a natural selection going on. I really do. I think there are some people that are going to get it, and some people that are just not going to get it. No matter what you show them, you can tell people that the sky is blue or water is wet, they won't believe you, and that's fine too. We're going to get through to some people. We're going to make a difference. I think we are making a difference. Both of us have been out here for a long time. Our audiences prove that. We got people, who are loyal to us, and we're loyal to them.
Oh,
And
100. That's who
you
we work
know,
for, isn't it?
it's exactly who we work for, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I love that. I really, really do. Um, we're like, the CEOs of our own little corporations, but we work for them, and I love
Yeah.
that. I love people. I'm a people person. I want people to, stay happy and have a good life. But it's kind of difficult right now for people, and I hate that too, because I really do believe this, and I warned about this from a long time ago. We're seeing a new feudal system, extreme
Oh,
haves, extreme
absolutely.
have-nots. We're seeing a wipeout of the middle class by design here. And it's only going to get worse, in my view, here as we move forward, unfortunately. So, people need to stay strong from a lot of different angles, from spiritual angle, from a financial angle,
From a
being
health
prepared for what,
angle.
yeah, for what may come down the pike, get together with like-minded people, start talking about things. Don't be afraid, but just understand what's going on. And that's pretty much it. That's where I'm coming from.
Well, you made a statement in this, and I think let's probe that a little bit more. And you were talking about perception management propaganda,
Yeah.
right? And we saw, recently two Fed presidents called
Oh.
out for all their trading
Mhm.
activity while they were influencing the markets. And
Mhm.
now they went away. And then we saw the head of the IMF, Georgina, also called out on her influence with China. And these institutions, whether it's the Federal Reserve, the IMF, or or the World Bank, or any of them, they absolutely require our confidence. But,
Well,
the influence that these recent revelations have made, do you think that that's enough to push over that loss of confidence? I mean, they're looking at even inflation expectations, right? So
mhm.
that's that perception management. What do you think about that whole big mess? And do you think we're at a tipping point? Because I think once confidence is lost, that's it.
The whole market functions of confidence or a belief that it's going to function. And, with corruption in the Fed, and even the Fed chair himself, who
Shocker.
coincidentally owned the same securities that coincidentally, he actually said that, the same
Yeah.
securities. You got to be kidding me. Hey, insider trading, you don't want to get arrested, become a Fed president and just resign. It's incredible. It really is. It's us and them. There's no doubt about it. I think people, at least who follow our work, realize it isn't us and them kind of a situation here. And with regard to the market, we're going to see how the market swallows this stuff. And like I said earlier, we all know, look, we're ready. I believe you and I have done a great job of preparing people for what's coming down the pike. The market is not going to go up in perpetuity. The
Right.
market is at one point going to take a massive, I mean, I think it's going to be the mother of all implosions, which
Oh,
is going
yeah.
to start in the debt market, bleed off into the stock market, and it's going to just be an epic transfer of wealth, or a flip around from risk on to risk off. So with that said, look, the market, it's not a market anymore. It's some kind of a free for all. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Valuations, PE ratios, forward guidance, whatever it might be, it doesn't make sense at all. And so I stopped looking at all that stuff. I just kind of, I look at the market from the perspective, it's all fake. It's all propped up. It's all twisted. But what do I need to do to stay on the right side of it? That's it. That's really what it comes down to me. I'm trading the fakery is really
Right.
what I've been doing for the longest time, owning large cap companies that pay dividends. And I do own several of these. JP Morgan, believe it or not, is my largest holding, and I own the stock. And they pay a large dividend every quarter. I'm playing the game. I'm playing the game like everybody else should be doing here. At the same time, I am trading this market here. I'm selling options onto the market. I'm holding. I haven't bought any more metals in a while because I have a good foundation with regard to precious metals here. Not saying people shouldn't buy it. I think they
Oh
should
no, I
absolutely buy
just
it.
bought more last week, so
Yeah,
I'm loading
especially,
up. Yeah.
yeah, in this environment. I mean, if people
Absolutely.
are new, they should be really doing that. I tell people, my favorite asset, I think that is physical silver. I love it. I think it's my favorite asset of all time. I do believe people need to have some crypto in their portfolio as well. I do have some. Most people know that. I started buying Bitcoin around 3,000. I own Litecoin. I own Ethereum. I own all the big ones pretty much. I started buying Dash relatively, maybe several months back. It's been very volatile. It's the only one I'm actually underwater on is Dash right now, but these are long-term holds for me. And again, it's not an immense part of my portfolio, but I have some cash invested in that. And I was lucky, I think, in a lot, maybe not lucky, I don't know what it was, to get in on Bitcoin when I did. And I did buy it on the way up too. I bought it at 3,000, I bought it 6,000, I bought it 10,000, 12,000. I bought a lot of it going up as well too. I think today it's down a little bit. I think it's 41,000. But anyway,
So, well, what do you, since we're talking about cryptos, what do you think about China's latest move
yeah,
on basically, I mean, they've been working toward this for a while,
yeah,
but what do you think about their latest move of banning all crypto
yeah,
because of the
transactions.
competitions with their CBDC? That's
Uh,
it.
I don't think in the long run it's going to make any difference at all. I think we're going to
But
see
do you think that
cryptos.
they're going to be able to hold that ban?
I, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. But I don't believe they're going to sway people that want to be in that space from being in it. You tell people that they can't do something illegal or legally, they're going to find a way to circumvent that, and I believe that is going to happen. So, and look, the crypto space, and it's not for everybody. It really, you
No,
gotta be
I
able
don't own
to.
any.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to accept extreme swings in the price action of cryptocurrencies. My take on cryptos and why I like the space, it comes down to one thing. These are non-central bank issued things, whatever you want to call them blank.
Okay.
Some people don't like the name cryptocurrency. Call it, I don't know, make up a name.
Right.
I don't care what an asset might be called. I just want to figure out what if something comes out today and it's called blah blah blah. I want to try to figure out if blah 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 is something I should be looking into as an investment. That's
Mhm.
really what, and that's going back to that's what keeps me up at night. What am I missing? Am I missing something here? What else should I be what should I be telling people here? But I've been extremely steadfast with what I'm doing, my plan here, how to play the market, holding metals, which I've been saying since day one, and I will never change. I will never change that.
Right.
I can't tell you what a bull I am long term with regard to holding hard assets, gold, especially physical silver. I own platinum and palladium too. I own them all. I don't actually. That's not true. I don't own any copper. I know people are like really into the whole. I don't own it. I'm not saying it's a bad investment. I just don't own it.
Right.
And it's funny going back to talking about the market. People ask me questions all the time about this, that, or the other thing. because I don't, Greg, you don't mention this. Greg, you don't talk about this. And that's the reason for that is very simple, because I'm not in it. If I'm not in an asset class or whatever, I don't, or stock or a company or an ETF, I don't talk about it because I don't, why should I? Doesn't make any
Right.
sense. So I don't do that. But anyway, I do own, like I said, I own a good amount of gold, silver, platinum, palladium, no copper. I don't know why people always ask me, "Hey, Greg, why don't you own copper?" I have friends of mine that are really into it. They
Yeah.
really are. And it's,
Well,
first of
it's an
all, you need a
industrial
lot of
metal.
space for it. You
Right,
need a
you
lot of
do.
space to hold it. Yeah, and just I'm running out of space here anyway. But I wouldn't
Well,
say it's a bad. I don't know. Maybe you know more about copper than me. You probably do, because I don't. I know it's a building material for the most part, but I like.
right. I mean, is the world actually speeding up? Is it getting better? Are the economies getting better, or
No, they
we're
are.
just the
No,
opposite?
no.
So why own copper, honestly?
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's good. I mean, some people feel like it's a great place to be, and believe me, I've had people
Right.
lecture me on this. I just don't own it. Doesn't mean I hate it or I'm against it. But anyway, so that's really
Well,
my take on it,
the
on
other
everything.
piece that I want to kind of talk to you about, going back to the inflation,
Yeah.
because inflation is really the devaluation or the loss of purchasing power in any currency.
Mm-hmm.
And we are clearly experiencing a massive amount of loss of purchasing power.
Yes, we are.
So one of the challenges that I personally have, that I really always try and get people to see, and especially with this insane stock market, because all of those assets, which is sometimes hard for me to refer to them as assets, but all of those assets are really dollar denominated. I mean, all you can really do is convert them back into dollars. And last time I looked, a trillion times zero was still zero.
Mm-hmm.
So having a lot of gold, I mean, that's why, and everybody's got to do what they're comfortable doing. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I can just say what I do for myself. But so I can sleep at night, I'm really I'm all in both physical gold and physical silver, no doubt about it.
Got some here too. Look at this, right on my desk.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got more over here. I got it all.
Oh yeah, I got more here.
That is
And it feels
funny.
good, doesn't it? And
It
it
does feel good.
sounds beautiful, doesn't it?
Love it.
I love it too. I love it too. But you also, you can't eat it. So, but you can convert it into something that you can eat because of the universal acceptance. So, have you done much? Oh, this is a dangerous question. I've never asked you this before. But, okay, I might have asked you this one. I can't remember. But if we are indeed going into, I believe we're going into a hyperinflationary depression. That's what I think. That's what I think we're headed.
It sounds about right to me.
Okay. So the other things that we all need, food, water, energy, security, your barterability, your community, which is huge, shelter, because everybody's got to have a place to live. Have you done much with any of those other things?
I've done some. I'm sure not enough. Honestly, I always tell people to have the high ground. I'm certain that I could be more prepared in a lot of ways. But I have a lot of friends and people that are very, very into this, off the grid kind of people, pretty much. And
We just froze.
with
Wait,
people I meet, with there is trying to make friends with people, and I
that's
don't know
that
what that was.
community piece.
Yeah, and like get together with like-minded people, groups of people, join a club or something where people are, care about each other. Because in this society, what are they doing? They divide us by every mechanism
Oh,
possible. Now they're dividing us
yes.
by vaccine and vaccinated, non-vaccinated, this, that, and the other. Everything they can think about. And this is no surprise because I've been telling people to expect more of this anyway. But, so just try to get together with and expand your community. So you're not, let's say in a worst case scenario, you can go rely on other people and stuff like that too. Because and to me, that's our greatest resource.
I
We
agree.
are our greatest resource moving forward. And forget about anything else. That's what it really comes down to. All this other stuff, who knows? I think, it's important, of course, but, building your own, community is even more important. Getting together with people that you can count on. It's really important to do that. Anyway.
I mean, that's why you and I do have these conversations, not just with each other, but with a lot
Yeah.
of other people, is to build that community
Yeah,
and
it's so important.
create that awareness, because everybody has different skill sets and they have a different knowledge base. And so, you're just one person. I'm just one person. There's so much that we can do. But when we expand it into community, we are a whole lot more powerful.
Yeah.
And
And you spread around a little love, and I always tell people, love each other, care about each other, be charitable. It's that's how we make a difference in the world. All this is important, and it
exactly.
really is helping people insure and telling them what you think is the right thing for them to do. And I like what you said before. I'm telling people what I'm doing. I'm not giving advice of what you just tell them what you do, and if it makes sense to them, hey, you know what? Lynette's doing this. Greg is doing that. Makes sense to me. I'm going to look into it. And I always tell people, do your own homework, do your own research. What we do is we're sketching it out for them, and because every person is their own person.
Right.
They got to make their own choice. Okay, this is right for me. This is not right for me. Greg is out of his mind. Whatever, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But, yeah.
And I think that's what makes us all powerful. But, I want to go back to something that you said about the central bankers being the last lenders and the last buyers. How do you see that unfolding with them buying all of the assets? How can they actually do that?
Well,
Kind of like the Bank of Japan?
Well, that's what the Fed is. They have a computer screen. They can add as many digits as they want to. What are they doing right now? I believe it's still the same. They're doing 100 billion minimum,
Right.
And treasuries every month, and 40 billion minimum of mortgage-backed securities. There's no top, and this is what we're allowed to know. I think the Federal
Yes,
Reserve
I
is
love that.
is
Such a good
deeply
point.
involved in a lot of other things here, funneling dollars around the world, having other central banks buy assets with the dollars. There's something else that's going on underneath this that's so dark and so ugly, and it's a terrible thing to see unfold. Because I think people like you and me saw this coming from a long time ago,
Oh, yeah.
and we tried to tell people about it, and we got through to a lot of people, and people would say, "Wow, you know what? This is happening." And you'd say this 5 years ago, and it's happening now. Yeah, it's not too hard. I think if you can look at the current, and if you understand what they want, what's the central banks want to do is they want to run the world. They want to be the government, and they are.
Yeah,
I
they
think
are.
we don't we have no representation here in the United States at all. The central banks, the Federal Reserve, they call the shots. They control the cash. They control everything, and everything else is just a charade. It's just a show to keep people believing in a system that does not exist, and it hasn't existed in a very, very long time. It's a scary environment. It definitely is, but when you have stuff like this going on, it also presents opportunity, in my view. So if
Absolutely.
we understand the environment we're in, well, what can we do to make it work instead of sitting back like Pavlov's dog and just foaming at the mouth, doing nothing? You got to act. And that's what I tell people. Yes. You listen to a show like this, you listen to you and me talk, and people are hearing this and they're saying, okay, what should I do? Especially if they're new here, if they're new to your show here. And both of us every day are picking up new people. And I think that's great. It shows us that we're making a difference. People are recommending our work. People are saying, hey, listen to Lynette Zang, listen to Gregory Mannarino. These people are, they know where it's at. So people can have a handle on it because they got to turn off those damn TVs. Those programming devices are really, really messing with people's minds very badly. They got to turn. I don't even watch except for I follow CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business for the most part, just to see what they're doing, what they're talking, what kind of propaganda they're putting out. Mm-hmm. And then I write it down. I have this little notebook. Okay, this is this is that. Okay, what's the real story? And then I talk about that. But that's kind of it.
I mean, I think we could not be living in more interesting times.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it?
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Watching us shift, socially, economically, and financially. And I don't really, I mean, I can see the path that they want us to take. You own nothing, they own everything, and they want you to think you're going to be happy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure not. But frankly, that's why I accumulate. I mean, there are different kinds of gold for different kinds of things. But when I'm looking for growth, that's why I like this kind of gold because, I don't know if there's going to be an overt confiscation or not. I don't think anybody can say that definitively one way or the other. History tells us that it's, in my opinion, highly likely since they've done it in the past. But these are the most undervalued assets that there are. Gold, physical silver, the most undervalued assets there are. So
I agree with you 100%. 100%. They really are. They are the most. Silver to me is so vastly undervalued. It makes me like freak out. That's what I tell everyone. I mean, of metals, silver is my biggest holding, and I love looking at it, touching it, playing with it. I really do. But I really think it is the most undervalued asset of them all. Anyway, you can look at so many. You can look at so many things. I like to look at the Dow gold ratio, the gold silver ratio, to kind of establish a number with what they actually may be worth here. And it's exponentially higher, obviously. And the debt is going to continue to expand. There's no end in sight. I think, it's funny. People don't realize that most people don't, that the debt is never really meant to be paid back. It's really meant to be expanded on and expanded on and expanded on. This is why you need to be in like those things you just held. And why, for example, I actually like the whole cryptos too, because I think they're anti-debt units. You own them. Yeah, they're not owed back to a central bank plus interest that they create out of thin air. And that's the only reason. When I first became introduced to this stuff, I was very skeptical. I didn't like it at all, because I didn't understand it. And it took me a long time to come around. I'm not going to lie. It took me a few years to come around with regard to understanding the crypto space and why I should maybe think about getting in. What really got my attention with cryptos was watching the volatility in Bitcoin, for example. We had some crazy spikes a while back and people were talking about Bitcoin and it hit 18,000 or so. And I said, this stuff just looks crazy. It's time to get rid of it. And I posted that and I got laughed at and ridiculed at that point. Then it went down to it cratered almost to nothing. And then I got a lot of people writing to me, Greg, how'd you call that top? It just didn't seem like it was worth it to me anymore. And then when I started understanding the mechanism up behind a little bit, I said, okay, you know what? And I actually said publicly, it was around $2,700. I said, it may be time to start getting into this. And that's when this is a while back. And then I started buying it. My first hold was Bitcoin. I started buying Litecoin. Those were my first two. And I don't know. I like the space. Like I said, it's not for everybody. I understand that. You got to.
Well, don't you think there's a battle royale going on right now between the central bank digital currencies and the private cryptocurrencies? Because they've had all of this adoption, they've had all this time for this adoption, and even in China, who is light years ahead of most other central banks in their central bank digital currency, and yet their population, when they rolled it out, it was kind of like a meh, because they were so used to Alipay and whatever else they use there, and that which I think there's a battle royale going on. I don't know who's going to win yet. I think that is out. What do you think about that battle?
I think about this stuff all the time. I really, really do. It doesn't keep me up at night. It doesn't keep me up at night. I still think you need to have some in your portfolio. I mean, I know people aren't into it and that's fine. And it's really, it's not for everybody. And some people, and this too. Oh, Greg, you're telling people to buy gold and silver. You're an idiot. Oh, it's going down. Silver's going to $6. Good. If it does, I'm buying it. If it goes down to $3, I'm buying it. You got to be kidding me.
Well, that is if you can get it at that price.
I'm just saying.
Too, but yes, I know.
Even today, as a matter of fact, I had an email. Greg, you're an idiot. You're telling people to buy gold and silver. You don't know what you're talking about. It's going much, much lower. Look, I don't even know how to respond to people like this. I really don't. Good. I'm not telling you it's going higher tomorrow. All I can say is if it goes lower, it becomes more on sale to me. That's really what it looks like.
Right.
And I will continue to say that until I don't. And right now, like I said, when the market is risk on like it is, other assets are naturally going to become suppressed in
Right.
value. But this is unnatural. What's going on right now has been going on for a
Oh,
really
you
long time.
think?
Good. Take advantage of it, in
Well,
my
one
view.
more thing that, because we're starting to run out of time, but one other thing that I really wanted to touch on with you is what's happening in the energy space,
Uh-huh.
particularly, because
Mm.
we're seeing prices explode, but we're also seeing, supply chain bottlenecks on a global basis. Yet, don't we need energy to manufacture or do anything?
Of course we do. I'm not. I'm. Look, with
So do you think
crude
this is
oil and
engineered, or what do you think about what's going on?
it's look, the energy space and especially crude oil. This stuff is rigged to the highest possible order. I don't think it really has any bearing on reality, the price action of it at all. I've been telling people this for the longest time. I think crude is going much higher, much higher. I mean, Goldman Sachs just put out their price target is 90. I think JP Morgan is 100, Morgan Stanley is 100, and I think those might even be lowball numbers moving forward. I really
Yeah, I
do.
think it broke
Uh,
80 today.
yeah, it did. So it's going up, and when it fell recently, I thought that was a major buying opportunity for people, and I said that, and it really was. It has rebounded. Today, crude oil was, like you had just said, it was higher, and then after Yellen made her comments, it did hit the market a little bit. But again, these dips, they got to be bought in this environment, moving forward, until it doesn't. And every day I sit and I think about it and I try to evaluate what's going on. And there's going to be a time to dump stocks and get out of all this stuff and maybe go short the market, stop betting against it stuff. But that time isn't now.
And is that
But
because you think that the Fed and globally the central bankers will just continue to rush in to prop it up
until they don't, I
until they
think there's
don't?
until they don't, because there's going to be a moment when they're going to stop and they're going to pull the plug at a time of their choosing. It's
Right.
and like I you
Do you,
can't, nobody can point their finger at any one thing and
but
say this is it,
right,
that's it. It's going to come out of left field. It's going
right.
to be
It's a black
something.
swan.
It is, and it's going to be a literal black swan. It's going to be something that people aren't going to see, they're not going to be able to really anticipate it, and it's just going to happen. So going back to keeping ourselves up at night, if you're hedged, if you're owning physical assets like gold and silver and you're in the market, who cares? Because I
Right.
think it's
Yeah.
just going to flip. I think it's just going to flip, risk on, risk off, risk on. That's all it's going to do here.
Well,
So, and that's why, when people are all invested or all in on one thing, and there's a lot of people that are all in on crypto, I think they're out of their freaking minds. I really, really do. I love crypto. People know that. I talk about it all the time. I own it myself, but I'm not all in on it. I'm not all in on the stock market. I'm not all in on anything. I'm really spread out in a lot of different things, and that's how I sleep at night. And I want people to do that too. Unless look, if people have limited resources, what would I tell them to do? I tell them to buy physical silver. That's it. If you have to have one asset, that's my favorite. If I had to have one, that would be it. So, you know, but
well,
as you
here,
move forward,
here's one other indicator that has me a bit worried. So I just want to throw this out at you and see what you think about it. Is because we've seen a rise in the naive investor participating in these markets, right? Whether it's whether it
margin debt, record highs, sure.
exactly. And typically, when, as you made the point before, when the central banks are going to say, okay, that's it, we're not supporting these markets anymore. Do you think that will come about when the Fed feels that there is enough of the, I guess, professional or financial world that's out of those markets and it's taken over more by the public? Because I mean, historically, that's what happens. Before the crash, 1928, you had the industrialists getting out of the market as the public was starting to go in the market. So when they cut off that credit to the markets, it was primarily the public that aided in the shorts. And a similar kind of thing in the 70s. And clearly. So, I mean, do you think that that's likely to happen again? And is this an indication?
You know what? It's always the non-professional that gets caught holding the bag here. And it's always the people who have maybe a little more insight who are able to get out. Look, I'm lucky enough to know people who work at most of the major banks on Wall Street, friends of mine, traders. We talk all the time. And, so maybe that gives me a little bit of a window into what's going on over
You're a
there.
professional too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you have a big window. More than
Yeah.
most people, really.
I think, just from, again, I talk to everybody. I know people personally who work at JP Morgan and Goldman. I talk to them all the time. And, so I'm not saying I get any inside information on anything, but maybe I do get a little glimpse as to what may be going on over there. And I talk about it in my blog too. Look, there's nothing I hold back. And these guys watch my blog. I know they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of funny. Some of them even comment anyway. But, so I think with regard to, I'm not in the business at all of trying to pick tops and bottoms in the
Right.
market.
I mean, that's
Um,
luck. If that
yeah,
happens, that's luck.
no, it's luck. I'm in the business of tracking trends and trying to take in the macro picture. That's what I do. It's all I do. Um, so, trying to catch little bits of information as to when this thing might,
Oh,
roll over. I try to get it. I try to get it
right.
out there and I
Yeah,
think
well,
about it.
good
Then I
luck
look
with that.
over. Then I look over at what's happening with regard to the dollar, with what's happening with the 10. I focus on the 10-year yield like a laser beam. It's
Mm-hmm.
the benchmark. It's kind of like what everyone looks at. And like I said earlier, I found this a little simple equation here. Just by combining those two and doing a little math, you can come up with this cute little number. And this cute little number has proven to work if you back test it. So anyway, so that helps me, I guess, stay calm as well. But again, be ready for anything. Be ready for
Exactly.
the unexpected. And that's why it's important to be in risk off assets right now. I think we're in a hyper bubble. I think inflation is going to get a lot worse. I think people are going to suffer. Unfortunately, I wish they didn't have to, but this is the game that's being played on them deliberately. Um, it's a mechanism here of control,
Absolutely.
of keeping people in some kind of a state of maybe learned helplessness or something along those lines, but they're not helpless. They can do something. People can take
Exactly.
action.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you 100%. And that's what we all really need to know, that we are not helpless. And especially, as you brought out before, if we come together in community and we
Yeah.
actually help each other, what a concept.
What a concept. I love that. I love that.
It's a great concept. Well, is there anything else that we haven't covered today that you feel like we need to talk about a little bit more?
I think we did great. I think we did a lot of information. It's important. People maybe should watch this twice because sometimes things fly out of people's heads.
Yeah.
And let's do this again soon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can't wait this long. We're not going to wait this long again. And we need to have some conversations about getting together physically. Another concept.
I know. We will.
Well, I hope you like this edition of Coffee with Lynette. I know I had a great time. We aren't going to wait this long to have our good friend Greg back. And until next time we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.